I never imagined that one unexpected moment aboard a transatlantic flight would unravel my life in ways I couldn't have predicted. I had boarded that plane exhausted, anxious, and already half defeated, clutching my 6-month-old daughter Lily, who had made it her personal mission to scream from the moment we left the runway. And I, Mason Grant, 42 years old, founder of a multi-billion-dollar tech company, was helpless against a baby who weighed barely 7 kilograms. For 3 hours straight, I tried everything. I paced the aisles. I whispered soothing nonsense. I rocked, bounced, pleaded. I changed diapers, offered bottles, and even tried swaddling techniques I'd seen and hastily watched YouTube tutorials. Nothing worked. The more I tried, the more Lily shrieked, her tiny face burning red with frustration and discomfort. First-class passengers stared at me as if I'd personally ruined their lives. I couldn't blame them. My own nerves were shot to pieces. The flight attendants, though polite, were clearly hoping for a miracle that wasn't coming. I felt myself shrinking under the weight of embarrassment and helplessness. I had negotiated billion-dollar deals, stared down hostile investors, weathered crises, but I couldn't soothe my own daughter. My wife had insisted I go on this business trip despite her recovering from emergency surgery. "Take Lily," she'd said. "You'll be fine." At the time, I believed her. Now, trapped in a cabin filled with hostility, I questioned every life choice I'd ever made. And then he appeared. A teenage boy, 16, maybe, walked up from economy class. His clothes were simple, his backpack patched with duct tape, but his expression was steady and calm. There was something disarming about him. He approached me with surprising gentleness, his voice barely above a whisper as he asked, "May I try?" I should have questioned it. I should have wondered why a stranger, let alone a teenager, thought he could help when no one else could. But exhaustion stripped away logic. I just nodded. The moment his hands touched Lily, silence spread through the cabin like a miracle. Her screams melted into little hiccups, then faded completely. The boy, who introduced himself as Adrian Miles, held her with a confidence that seemed deeply instinctual. He pressed certain points on her back with practiced precision and hummed a lullaby so old and soft it felt like a memory rather than a song. That I stared at him, bewildered. "How did you do that?" He smiled with an almost shy pride. "My baby sister had colic. Took me months to figure out what helped." Passengers who moments ago glared at me now stared at Adrian with awe. And I, the man who thought money could solve anything, was humbled by a teenager who traveled the world with nothing but a patched backpack and extraordinary talent. Lily drifted peacefully in his arms. I noticed his backpack covered in mathematics competition patches. His notebook, tucked into a side pocket, was filled with complex equations. When he spoke, there was a sharp intelligence behind his eyes, something far beyond his years. He explained that he came from a tough neighborhood in Chicago, that he was traveling alone to London to compete in the International Mathematics Championship. His community, neighbors, teachers, even his local barber, had chipped in small donations to send him overseas. That revelation struck me deeply. I had spent my life surrounded by privilege and power. Yet here was someone with little money but immeasurable determination. As the flight went on, Adrian told me about his family. His mother, who worked impossible hours. His grandmother, who cared for his siblings. His baby sister, whose colic had forced him to learn every soothing technique he now used so effortlessly on Lily. His voice, steady, factual, humble, made me realize that this boy wasn't just brilliant. He was resilient in ways I had never needed to be. When Lily finally fell asleep, I offered him the first-class seat beside me. He hesitated, unsure if he belonged there, but eventually sat. We spoke for hours about mathematics, family, opportunity, fear, responsibility. Somewhere in that conversation, something inside me shifted. I saw myself at 16, before success, before money, before the world changed me. And I saw who Adrian might become if someone gave him the opportunities he deserved. By the time we landed in London, I had made him an offer to stay with me during my business trip and help care for Lily, paid generously, of course, so that he could attend his competition without worrying about expenses. He hesitated at first, worried it would distract him, but eventually agreed. The next days changed both of us. While I conducted meetings that would determine the European expansion of my company, Adrian attended one of the most prestigious mathematics competitions in the world. Yet every afternoon and evening, he returned to help with Lily, who adored him instantly. And every night, he told me about the competition, the intense problem-solving rounds, the brilliant students from all over the world, the challenges that made even prodigies tremble. His eyes lit up when he spoke about patterns, probabilities, algorithms. Listening to him was like witnessing a mind on fire. But what impressed me most wasn't the mathematics. It was how he connected everything to real life. His solutions weren't abstract. They were grounded in the struggles he'd seen in his community: overcrowded hospitals, unreliable public transit, inconsistent school funding. He wanted to use mathematics to fix the world around him. I had never met a young mind that brilliant and that compassionate. When he told me about his dream of studying at MIT, but not knowing if he could afford it even with scholarships, something solidified inside me. I promised him that, no matter the outcome of the competition, I would ensure his education was funded. My foundation would support him. His future would not depend on chance. The final day of competition arrived. Adrian's task was to build a mathematical model for disease prevention in densely populated cities. He transformed the problem into a whole vision: statistical forecasts, human behavior patterns, resource allocations, explaining every part with the clarity of someone twice his age. That evening, at the closing ceremony, they announced the winners: third place, second place. My heart pounded for him. Then, first place, representing the United States, Adrian Miles. The applause roared. I felt myself stand before I realized it, holding Lily as she clapped her tiny hands. I'd never been prouder of someone who wasn't family, but perhaps he already was. That night, over a quiet celebration in the hotel suite, I told him what I had been thinking for days: that I wanted him to join my company after his education, to help build a division dedicated to solving social problems through mathematics and AI. He was stunned, overwhelmed, grateful. But above all, he understood the responsibility of such a path. Before bed, he picked up Lily, who giggled and grabbed his finger, and said, almost to himself, "All of this happened because I wanted to help a crying baby." And it was true. A simple act of kindness became the hinge that swung open two lives. When we boarded the return flight to the United States, I realized that I was bringing home more than my daughter and a completed business deal. I was bringing home the beginning of something much larger: a partnership, a purpose, a reminder that brilliance can come from anywhere, and that sometimes the greatest turning points start with a moment of compassion. And as I watched Adrian settle into his seat across the aisle, notebook already open, equations filling the page, I knew one thing with absolute certainty: this was only the beginning.